Well, good day, everybody. And I'm Russ Reed, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Center for the Biotechnology Workforce. And I'm absolutely delighted today because we have graduates of Sci Tech, and we're going to have a discussion regarding their careers and skills. And at this particular moment, I'm joined by Justin Campbell, who is presently working at the Institute for Regenerative Medicine, and also Bob Adams, who's working for Nanotech, right, Bob?
That's correct.
Now, my first question for you two guys is, first of all, say hi and welcome to the group. And you're going to be speaking and seeing some future students and students. So if both of you would just give a little bit about your backgrounds, that'd be great. And let's go with that.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Campbell. As Russ said, I work here at the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine. I'm a cell culture technician. I've been here for the last 5 years, and before that, I graduated from Sci Tech Community College.
Great. And Justin, there's a little bit of a secret in your past, though, from Sci Tech, right?
Well, there's probably quite a few, but so I started off in the nanotechnology program and graduated in 2015, and then I moved on to the biotechnology program, graduated in 2016, and it was the internships that I did through Sci Tech that actually got me hired on here at the Institute for Regenerative Medicine.
Well, that's fantastic, a double graduate, so we're really pleased to have you. And Bob, please, it's your turn. We want to know year of graduation and what you've been doing since.
Well, my name is Bob Adams. Graduated in 2008. And since then, I've been the lab manager for Nanotech Labs in Yadkinville. We do a lot of the biotech processes that we learned there. And my next plan is to retire.
And a secret to everybody here that we'll reveal is that Bob and I did this same interview more than a dozen years ago. And so I'm very, very excited to reconnect with Bob. We haven't really ever disconnected, but this is a good time to connect again, because we're coming up here now on graduates that are post 15 years in some cases. So we do want to make sure we touch base with them and see how they're doing. Also on the line today, and does a lot of video productions for Sci Tech, is Shawns Keebrew. And Shawn, welcome. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Russ. Thanks for having me.
Shawn, you're a FT graduate. What year did you graduate?
I graduated from the Broadcasting Production Technologies program in 2015, and then turned around and got a part-time job with Sci Tech in the Center for Transformative Learning, doing video production and things like that. And then a couple of years later, rolled it into full-time, and I've been a full-time instructional technology specialist since 2017.
Well, Shawn, you do such a great job, and I want to really thank you again for everything you've done for us this year in virtual COVID, because, we've really had to put a lean on you for a lot of the work that we're doing with respect to Sci Tech, and of course, the work we're doing with our other grants. So you've been the major person behind everything that we've done from a media perspective this year, and really, really appreciate it. But in just our pre-discussion to this, we learned that we are talking to 3 military veterans right now. And first of all, I want to thank you for your service. Why don't we talk to that a little bit, because that's very important, that one, you served, but two, I think there's an aspect about serving that is resonating with a lot of the people that we've had come through our program. One of our programs that we have is a professional development program, and we always notice something with respect to military veterans. And I would like you guys to flush that out a little bit. But first of all, Justin, why don't we start with you, and you just tell us, what did you do in the military, and what do you think being in the military translates into your biotech career?
Sure. Actually, quite a bit. So I enlisted in the Air Force back in 1998, right out of high school, and I was in for almost 5 years. I was military police. That was right around when 9/11 happened. And as a result, instead of being able to separate, a lot of us were instead deployed, which is how the extra year got added on. So how it translated was, well, first of all, I had the GI Bill. So the financial aspect of it was it was awesome because not only was my tuition covered, but I also received a stipend check each month as well to live on. So that aspect of it gave me confidence knowing that I wasn't going to dig myself into a hole just trying to complete my undergrad. As far as actual personal skills, pretty much from day one when I showed up, I tried to treat all of my science-based classes like OJT, on-the-job training, which is something that's instilled in you in the military. So rather than just saying, oh, this is just another chapter that we're covering, this was a skill or some type of a skill set that I was going to be expected to complete once I entered the workforce. So it kind of changed my perception of how I thought about the content and the material and the actual process of what we did in the labs as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Justin. That's really interesting. Bob?
Yes, I enlisted in 1984 and retired as a chief petty officer in 2004. Stayed out of the workforce for a couple of years and ended up getting about 60% disability. So the VA decided they would send me back to school to learn a different trade. So we dealt with that and picked programs, and I ended up in the biotech program. And from there, I went and did an internship for W Firm and landed the job at Nanotech Labs as where I'm currently the lab manager. The military taught us a lot of things, and it was a work ethic would be one of the biggest ones you'll find. Respect is the other one, and I don't know if we're getting enough of that in today's world. But that would be my 2 cents on that part of it right now, Russ.
Thanks, Bob. And Shawn, I mean, you're not a biotech guy, but you do media, and there's a lot of crossover skills between what people do in the lab and what you do in your quote lab. So can you tell us a little bit about your military experience and what you think crossed over?
Absolutely. So I joined the military. I joined the Army National Guard in 2006, straight out of high school. And I was in Baghdad by 2007. Spent a few months there, almost a year in Baghdad, and came back. And then there was a nice lull of a few years, and I ended up going to Egypt in 2012, and finished out my contract while I was in Egypt. But I think some of the big crossover was, interestingly enough, Justin said he was military police. That was what I did. I was military police officer, mostly overseas and teaching other police officers how to do proper police procedures. But what Justin also said with on-the-job training, that is such a key part of being in the real world, I think, is, so many times you can learn about a job, but when you actually get into it, some new things might have come out, or there's some industry standards that might be a little bit ahead of where the classroom standard was. And so you have to rely upon that ability to adapt on the job and really receive that training and push forward through that. And then something Bob said that relates to that is that work ethic. You've got to be willing to overcome those obstacles of, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Let's get through it and figure it out. And then the respect, obviously, like Bob said, just respect the people that came before you and are showing you the way, because they've been through so much more. And so the overlap for me with broadcasting, what sent me into broadcasting was I wanted to capture those moments. I wanted to be a part of the biotech industry, but I also wanted to be a part of the healthcare industry, and I wanted to be a part of the aviation industry, and I wanted to see all those things and bring those stories to people that may not have any idea that what's going on. There's so many wonderful things happening at W Firm that we need to get out there. And so that's really where I find myself fitting in, is being able to take the stories and translating them and showing them to people who didn't even know it existed.
I'll add one more, because I think we'd all be remiss if we didn't say it, but attention to detail, especially with lab work and science work, just being aware of your surroundings and paying attention goes a very, very long way when you're doing things that are very important or very dangerous. So attention to detail was probably one that translated before anything else.
Bob, any other comments from your perspective, or Shawn? Because I think that Justin just hit the nail on the head for me, and I'll explain that in a second.
Just got, when you go into something, you got to go into it full force, 100%. And if you're going to do it right. Don't set the classroom and goof off and just expect you're going to get a degree and you're going to go out. Somebody's going to hire you right off the bat. You've got to work for it. Something that we all learned in the military. You didn't get nothing for free.
And nothing worth doing is easy. It's something that I took away.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of trouble for free, but nobody wants that. Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I just want to bring it back to one of the grants that we have, which is called Biomedical Emerging Technology Applications. It's an NSF grant from the National Science Foundation, and we're really looking at the skills going forward, what people need to be able to do in the lab, how they need to be able to work together, and so forth. And actually, when Justin said attention to detail, that was overly resonating with our client base. So that would be our employers. And when we brought our employers in and we did a roundtable with them, and then we sent them a survey, good documentation practices came up as being extremely important. And what they were really saying was attention to detail. And so that came through loudly, clearly. And, there are other things that you guys were all taught. But I think that, it really resonates with me, the fact that, all three of you have come from a military background. And you can say that basically on-the-job training, OJT, detail, respect, standards, these are all very consistent with our Beta Skills grant. So I want to thank you for offering that information. Now, I want to just kind of end this segment by asking each one of you, and I think Bob alluded to it, but I would like to ask each one of you, where you think your next move is. And I think, Justin, since you got some news this week, I think that one's pretty easy for you. And maybe you'd like to elucidate to the audience what's happened in your career right now.
Sure. So I actually, where I work here at the Institute for Regenerative Medicine is actually part of the Wake Forest School of Medicine. So it's part of the graduate school. I applied for a spot in the molecular and cellular biosciences program and was accepted. So I will be starting a PhD track at Wake Forest in the fall, in August. So that usually takes, on average, about 5 years. Could take as few as 4. Some people take longer, maybe closer to 6 years, but on average 5 years. So that's my 5-year projection. And then afterward, I'd like to stay around Winston, stay within Wake, and do my postdoc, and then kind of figure out what I want to do from there.
Well, I think we all congratulate you, Justin. I mean, that's pretty much that's it, right? I mean, people do a terminal degree. So from an academic perspective and a research perspective, that's very impressive, and we wish you all the best and wish you luck with your future endeavors. Bob, I think you alluded to it, but you might as well spit it out.
Wait, you know what my short-term goal is to work for about another 6 months to a year and then call it quits. I've been in the workforce since I grew up in a tobacco field, joined the Navy, spent 20 years there, and I've been at this job for a little over 13 now. So it's time to start enjoying life and traveling a little bit, and seeing what our future holds.
That's great and well deserved, and I'm very excited for you. We've had those conversations, and 6 months is putting a time stamp on it. I've seen some people at the college actually put set their cell phones with a countdown, and others with a watch. They'll set a countdown, so they'll come digital watch and they'll say, "I got this much time left." So it's kind of but when you worked hard for it, you deserve it, so you should take it. That's great. And Shawn, what's next for you?
Next for me, well, recently, the short term, I'm having a little baby girl coming to the world. So I'll be a new father. So I'm looking forward to that challenge, watching her grow up to be the woman she's going to be. But I'm also heavily considering biotech. I'm looking at, I love the idea of regenerative medicine and 3D printing, even human parts and things like that. That really fascinates me on a number of levels. So I'm starting to lean that way.
Shawn, that's amazing that you're going to be a dad. That's fantastic, and congratulations to you and your special person there that you're going to have this child with. That's a pretty awesome responsibility, and I know you're the person and to do it. So congratulations. That's great.
Well, thank you very much, Russ.
On the biotech aspect, we have a program.
I've heard about this program.
Yeah. So would you be thinking of taking it at the associate's level, or would you go into a bachelor's program?
I think I would start at the associate's level. Especially if it's at Sci Tech. Just I have nothing but fond things to say about Sci Tech. So I think starting a bigger, broader path there would be the best way to go. But I would certainly try to take it all the way up through the graduate level.
Well, that's great. And Shawn, you know where to go if you need some help on that. You can always talk to me about it, but at the same time, you can talk to Dr. Cheryl Burrell, who's the program chair for biotechnology over at Sci Tech. And if you're serious about that, then you know who to call. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I have one last question for the three of you, and that is, is there anything in particular that you would, that each one of you would like to say to somebody who's contemplating going into the college and taking a program, from Shawn, we'll include you in this because it's not just this is kind of like a general question more than it is a biotech question, but we're going to consider you honorary biotech, Shawn, because you've just finished doing 20 interviews on leadership in biotechnology with myself and Tom Tubon. So we think you have a little bit of insight into what it takes. But if you want to give a message to people who might watch this as to just kind of like a parting message, that would be great. Justin,
would you like to go first? You want me to go first?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll give you my own personal little situation. Prior to me taking classes, I was in construction, and that's a lot of hard work. And I came home from a job site one night, and I was just very, I don't know, just over it pretty much. And I decided I want to take some classes and get out of construction and get into science. And it dawned on me that 2 years would go by either way, but 2 years from that moment, if I signed up for that first class, I would have a degree and I would be done with construction. But either way, again, the 2 years are going to go by. But if those 2 years went by and I didn't sign up for the classes, I would at some point say, if I just signed up for those classes, I would have a degree right now and I wouldn't have to do this anymore. So, obviously, I'm older, so it's never too late is the first thing. And the second is the sooner you get started, the sooner you can get things going. So I would encourage someone who, if you have an interest, you don't even have to be extremely passionate about something, but if you even have an interest in it, look a little further into it. If it seems like that's for you, it will make sense as you go through. And just signing up for that first semester, just getting things going, and they move pretty quick after that. So yeah, that would be my advice, is just take that first step, and then after you do, everything falls into place pretty quickly. And before you know it, you'll be out doing your internship, and you'll be out in the workforce as well. But you got to take that first step.
Thanks, Justin. That's great. Why don't we move over to Bob?
Well, Russ, my big thing here is, we've always heard about the biotech jobs. When we do the biotech program and we go out looking, we can't just look at particular biotech companies. There are so many other companies out there that use the same skills that we learn in the biotech program that are going to get us a job. With me working with nanotech, there's so many different applications that this schooling can send you in multiple directions to find what you really want to do. So that would be my advice, and to stay on top of it, do your work, be the best that you can be in your class, and that also helps.
That's pretty savvy things to say, Bob. Thanks for saying that. And Shawn, you're coming from a different perspective. It's not biotech, but you have a chance and opportunity to encourage people to maybe point in that direction because you've just been immersed into some biotech leadership. What do you think?
I think everything that Justin and Bob said is 100% on point. And there's going to be those moments when you're completely unsure or feeling overwhelmed, and you need to reach out to the resources that are available to you in those moments. They will get you through. If it has to be an advisor or a tutor or someone who's gone through the program, there are resources available to get you over those humps that when you finally get to the end, to the finish line, you'll look back and go, oh my goodness, I thought that was such a big obstacle, and I couldn't have done it without this person or that person. But now it just seems like I'm so glad I kept going.
Shawn, great advice. I have one last question for you all, and I think it's going to be very simple to answer. How valuable was your work study portion of what you did?
Well, so mine was paramount. So I started mine in January of 2016, and that was my final semester for Sci Tech. And because of my previous degree, I was actually hired on before I completed that semester. But for example, my start date here was May 2nd, and then my commencement for Sci Tech was May 7th. So it wasn't but a couple of days later that I graduated. And it was the time that I spent here. It was the networking. It was meeting people, having the opportunity to prove myself. And I went into this thinking that even if I don't end up here, I still had the opportunity to work in a Wake Forest research lab, and that's what I was going to put on my CV as I tried to enter into the workforce. But I was lucky enough to end up in a lab that there was an opening, and as a result, I was hired on even before I was done with my internship. So getting into a place, meeting people, putting the word out there that you're graduating soon, putting the word out there that you're extremely interested in working in this field, that you're competent, that you're confident, and proving that you are an asset when it comes time for them to have to make a decision like that, meaning to determine whether they're going to employ you or not. You have plenty of opportunity to establish your value with them. And even if you don't end up in a situation where you are able to do a work study someplace that's hiring, taking on as much information as you can and still networking. Those people didn't always work there. They know other people that work other places, and they may be able to get you in or to put you in contact with people in other places. It's always wise to network, and it's always wise to you want to remain vigilant and always be on your P's and Q's, because you never know who you're talking to. You never know who it is that you're discussing what with. So you always want to be professional, always want to be on guard, and put yourself out there. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But you have to be confident, you have to carry yourself, and you have to be competent as well. So pay attention in school, and then when you show up and it's time to do the work, like Bob said, work ethic, work hard, work harder and faster than everyone else. And people remember that. It goes a long way.
Great advice, Justin. Bob.
Yeah, just exactly what Justin said. I mean, I did my internship at W Firm. The networking part worked for me because of one of the doctors that was there seen something and recommended me to someone else. And the next thing I know, I was hired long before I graduated with a full-time job, and been there since the internship at W Firm. So it's one of those things you've got to want it if you want to get it. And if there's no want, then it's not the program. This is a program that's going to test you. It's going to try you, and if you set your mind to it, you can get through it. So that would be my advice to any of the students getting into this program. It's not a freebie.
Thanks, Bob. That's, I think, very sound advice as well. And Shawn, from your perspective, I mean, I imagine when you were doing your media program, you probably did a work study of some sort as well, right? Probably in the college, maybe.
Actually, I did an internship at a radio station in Greensboro, and I did a brief internship at the CW, which is also out of High Point, Greensboro. And one of the things I learned was just because they do it in school a certain way doesn't exactly mean that's how it works in the real world. Things in a book are nice, but also just be ready. When you get out into the workforce, just be ready and be willing to do whatever comes up. Learn the new thing, or take on the task that maybe not everybody else is doing, especially when you're starting out at first. Because everything you do is building skill, and everything you do is, in one way or another, being watched. So it goes a long way to just work hard and learn as much as you can.
So, I want to thank you guys today for joining me. And this is a very, very powerful session that we've had today. You guys are to be commended for, your military service, giving back in the sense of, you did this voluntarily, so I really appreciate that. But also for your dedication to your jobs and to your studies, and obviously it's paid off, and so we're very appreciative of that. So thank you for joining us at Sci Tech today, and lots to think about for these young people that are going to go into our programs at Foresight Tech, and in particular our biotech program. So wish you all a good day and a great weekend. Thank you.